Breaking news, PSA finally came out with their regular service pricing. Yes, this is the news that we've been waiting for. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to get into the PSA news. It's interesting because I looked on the PSA website and the news that they posted, at least the article that I posted, is that they have acquired the card pricing tool Card Ladder. So that is actually not the news that we were looking for, but I did get an email from Got Baseball Cards in Atlanta, Georgia, stating that they have received new pricing for regular service, which is $110 per card if you sub through their store. And that's typically how I've sent my cards into PSA in the past. So as far as I know, the news is out. The regular service is around $100 per card. At least for Got Baseball Cards, it's $110 per card. And if you send in an order of 10 or more, the pricing is $100 per card. So what I want to do in this video is go over the 10 cards that I plan to grade with PSA, but I wanted to look at the potential value, the potential resale value of those cards if they were to come back a PSA 9 or if they were to come back a PSA 10, and really take a look at, is it worth it to grade it at $100 per card? So that's what I want to do in this video. But before I get into it, I wanted to bring up a fun fact. And I don't know if I'm going to do this in every video, but I did want to bring up a fun fact in this video regarding an interesting topic. I was watching a video, baseball card collector, investor, dealer. If you haven't had a chance to check out his channel, definitely check it out. This guy's been doing it a long time, and he has a lot of very useful information. So he did a high roller video, and in this video, one of the high roller cards that sold was a Roberto Clemente 1955 Topps rookie card in a PSA 8. And what he pointed out is that there is only one PSA 10 card in existence of that specific Roberto Clemente 1955 Topps. So I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. There's only one graded. I wonder when the last time it sold. So off to Google I went, and I noticed the last sale on that card was back in 2012. And actually, he does say that in the video. The last sale was in 2012 for $432,000. Now, what was even more interesting than that is I wanted to text my friends and show them, hey, check this out. I just found out there's a Roberto Clemente PSA 10. Last sale was over $400,000, almost 10 years ago. Wouldn't it be cool to have this card in our collection? Well, as I looked it up on Google, I noticed that that particular card, underneath it said Dmitri Young Collection. And I thought to myself, that's kind of odd. Is that some kind of reprint or some other subset? Did Dmitri Young have something to do with vintage cards at some point? I was really kind of confused by that label on the PSA 10 card. So dug in a little bit further and found out that actually Dmitri Young, a baseball player about 20 years ago, actually started collecting baseball cards in the early 2000s. And he not only collected, he didn't dabble in it. He went hardcore collecting PSA 10s of a lot of vintage players, including Pete Rose, Hank Aaron, the Roberto Clemente card I just mentioned. He went on and on trying to find the best quality, high graded cards, really PSA 10s, which, as you can tell, there are very few in existence. So this was all news to me. Dmitri Young was a decent baseball player, but by no means was he a Hall of Famer or a star or really anyone that I think probably most people might not even remember who he was if you're younger and, in the younger generation. But anyway, I just thought it was really odd that this particular, kind of a random baseball player, that he would have gone so hardcore into collecting vintage, but he did. And it was just really a cool story. And he ended up selling a lot of those cards. I noticed that on Google. And one of the sales was the Roberto Clemente back in 2012 for $432,000. So anyway, just a fun fact for those of you who may remember Dmitri Young. He was actually a hardcore baseball card collector. And I don't know if he still collects. I know that he sold off a lot of these cards. I don't know if he sold his entire collection, but he might still collect. I didn't actually read any further articles. It kind of ran out of time doing this deep dive into Dimitri Young. Another fun fact is he has a brother by the name of Delman Young, who was the #1 draft pick in 2003 for Major League Baseball. His brother actually played on a traveling baseball team with my cousin. So my cousin was actually an up-and-coming baseball, I guess you could say a baseball prospect as well. He didn't quite get to the level of Delman Young, but he was on the same traveling team, so that was pretty cool to know that, and it was kind of a fun fact as well. All right, so let's get into the core of the video, which is that PSA has finally came out with their regular service pricing levels, and it looks like it's about $100 per card, which is what everyone expected. So the question then is, how many cards am I going to send in? Is this going to open the floodgates for people to just pour hundreds of thousands of cards to PSA? Is this going to create a whole nother backlog? And I'll be honest with you, I really don't think so. I had a stack of cards that I was going to send into PSA even at $100. But when I did this analysis, most of the resale value on these cards, because of how the market has trended downward lately, it's just not worth it to send it in for $100. Probably wouldn't even be worth it to send it in at $50 per card. But I did find 10 cards that I think I would like to send in. I did an analysis on each of those cards to see if maybe the math might work. So let's get into each one. First card I got ready to go is Justin Herbert Hollow. And actually, I do have the cards right here, so I'll show them, but I also have a screenshot as well. But this Justin Herbert Hollow, got this back from StarStock. It's a StarStock A. And a PSA 10 price on that is $900. That's the recent resale value. PSA 9 is $260. So I've done this analysis in previous videos. What I do is I take the percentage of chance of getting a PSA 10, percentage of chance of getting a PSA 9, and kind of calculate what is a rough value on that raw card based on, what if I get a 10, what if I get a 9, and then I kind of calculate a value on that. And so in this particular case, you'll see here on the slide that it's over, I'm calling it a StarStock A value. This card did actually come from StarStock, and I'm calculating it at about roughly over $600. So as you can see, based on that, it is profitable for me to send the card in for grading, considering I purchased it for around $200. And then even if I pay the $100 grading fee, there's still a good chance that I'm going to make a profit on this card. Now, here's something that I did want to point out is, if the card comes back a PSA 9, I'm going to lose. And that's the case with every single one of these cards. There's this huge gap between a PSA 10 and a PSA 9 on many cards. This is what I've noticed. And so I just have to take that into consideration. In theory, if I'm worried about losing because I'm going to get a 9, I wouldn't send in any of these cards. And I really think that that's a tough decision that a lot of people are going to have to face. There's a chance that they're going to get a 9. There's probably a good chance they're going to get a 9. And if they get a 9, are they going to lose money? And so what I've done here is I believe that this card is a 10. And so I'm going to go over the next 10 cards, the next 9 cards. I believe all of those are going to get a 10. Obviously, they're not all going to get 10s. But on average, enough of them should get 10s that it's going to make it worth my while, unless the resale value on certain cards is just so poor that it really doesn't make sense mathematically. And that's why I do this kind of StarStock A return on investment calculation, which you can see on the screen. Let's get into the next card, which is Justin Herbert regular optic. So this is not the hollow. I was able to get that for $60. Really good price on StarStock. And the other nice thing is I get to look at the cards. In the past, StarStock would look at the cards and they would just let me know, yeah, we think this is good to go. Now, we did get one order back from StarStock and I got 5 out of 8 PSA 10s. So it did work out well in that case, but I do like the fact that now I get to take a look at it myself and see, are these cards really good to go? Because as I showed in the previous video, some of the StarStock A cards were not quite PSA 10 worthy in my opinion. With this Justin Herbert optic PSA 10, $275, PSA 9, did I not write the PSA 9 price on here? Well, you'll see it on the screen. So this one was a little bit more, a little bit more closer to break even, but I calculated the ROI at 33%. So With this math, I would say that it's still probably okay to send this off to PSA at a $100 order. I should still profit. Again, if I turn in 10 cards and they're all showing a positive ROI, in the end, I should get enough 10s to make a profit. So that's my theory. That's what I'm going with here. Let's move on to the next card here, which is Nicole Jokic. And this is Nicole Jokic based donruss. This card at one point was going for $1,500 in a PSA 10. And that's what I'm talking about. Back in April or back in March or whenever this card was going for $1,500, it clearly would have made sense to send it in even at $100, knowing that if I get a 10, I have a $1,500 resale value card. But now it currently sits at $338 for a PSA 10. So now it creates a tough decision. I put in about $110 into the card, which again, at the time seemed like a decent raw price. And now I'm going to pay $100 to grade the card. So now I'm going to do it over $200. If I get my 10, then it's $338, which is nice. However, if I get a 9, it's less than $100. So I calculated that actually at a loss. So that really, but according to this math, I should not send in this Nicole Jokic. There's a chance I'm going to lose 17% of my money, if that makes any sense by looking at the slides. The next card I have here is Stefan Diggs, and this is another card that as a PSA 10 not too long ago was going for over $500. Currently, that PSA 10 sits at $291. We'll just round it up and say roughly $300. PSA 9 is selling for about $120, which is not bad for a 9. And this card, I want to point out, is super low pop. So that's the other thing to consider is, okay, right now the PSA 10 is below 300, but considering how low the pop count is on this card, if the Bills were to make the playoffs, which I believe they will, I still believe that I still believe in Josh Allen and that Bills team. If Stefan Diggs were to get hot, the low pop count could create a spike in that card. And that's one of the things that we see is demand shifts so drastically, good and bad. If a player gets hot, people are on board. If there's only 17 PSA 10 cards of that player, well, a lot of people are going to be chasing very few cards. So that's something to consider here. But if you just look at the math here, I should lose at current prices about 8%. So I would just say that's roughly break even if I were to send this card. Another nice card that I got from StarStock, got this at $200. Shohei Ohtani Refractor. Beautiful card. Very high chance that it's going to come back a PSA 10 according to how many have come back already, which is over 75%. PSA 10 currently sits at 480, PSA 9 at 194. So 39% positive ROI on this. I like this card in general. I would just send it in anyway because I feel pretty good that it's going to come back a PSA 10. This next card, Zach LaVine Prism. PSA 10, $275. PSA 9, only $55. I'll tell you this, I bought a few of these raw cards on eBay and many of them have surface issues. I don't know if it's just because they're older cards. People didn't really keep them in sleeves or top loaders or keep them clean throughout the years. But I have noticed there are a lot of surface issues, and I believe that many of those were sent in for grading, which are coming back PSA 9s. But this raw copy of the card is the cleanest I've ever seen. So again, I feel very good that it will come back a PSA 10. However, if it comes back a 9, I really lose. So this is one card that I'm really considering not sending at the $100 price point. Another card that I looked at, and I wasn't considering sending this at all. This is just a base Donruss LaMelo Ball. But I looked it up, and PSA 10 is $183, PSA 9, $80. I only paid $18 for the card. So basically most of my cost is going to be in grading this card. And if I get my 10, it comes back at 183. The pop count is kind of low right now, but I expect that to go up quite a bit once people start to grade this card. However, if I send it in now at $100, I will be one of the few that has a PSA 10, as I believe most people probably won't spend $100 to grade that card. And why would I even consider it? I watched the Hornets and the Bucks last night, and I am a firm believer in LaMelo Ball and the future of that he has in the NBA. What I saw was just unreal, and obviously capped off with that game-tying shot toward the end of the game. I know they lost, but he is young, and for him to go into Milwaukee and just have that kind of performance, I think there's plenty more to come. And again, as I mentioned, demand sometimes outweighs supply. I mean, if you got enough people on board that are chasing cards, you're going to see a price increase in their cards. Now, in the case of maybe Zion Williamson or Luka, where their PSA 10s are 20,000 or more, that could be a case where supply really is the factor there, and it doesn't really matter what the demand is, unless something totally outrageous happens, which we're waiting for from Luka, a deep playoff run, maybe even an NBA championship. I got this Cooper Cup for $20 on StarStock A. Now, reason I would grade it is because I like the season that he's having. I like that he's chasing Jerry Rice's single season record, and I think the Rams will turn it around and get into the playoffs. So there's a lot of upside there. I got the card at a very cheap price, $20, but I'm going to have to pay $100 to grade it. PSA 10 currently sits at $266, PSA 9 at $116. So I like the high floor of the PSA 9 price. The thing I don't like is I took a look at this card, and the back looks not quite as crisp as I had hoped. So could it get a 10? Yes. If it came back a 9, I would not be surprised. I just don't like that feeling of the corners aren't as sharp as I would like. And so there's some doubt in my mind that it might get a PSA 10. If there's doubt in my mind, it's probably going to go the other way and come back a 9. So that's my concern. And I actually have two Cooper Cups, and it's the same thing. They both kind of have not as sharp corners as I had hoped. And the one that had the sharpest corners I sent off to HGA earlier in the week. Finally, picked up this Aaron Rodgers, and this card is actually doing well. In the down market, we're seeing Aaron Rodgers Topps base PSA 10 start to trend upward. I looked at the latest price, which is $850 for a PSA 10. Just maybe a month ago, it was down to $650. So it has gone up recently, and it makes sense. The Packers are doing well. Rodgers is having another great season. I know there's been a lot of off-field issues with whether he was vaccinated or he didn't get vaccinated or whatever, but it seems like that all got swept under the rug, and people are now focused at what's going on the football field, and that is good news for Aaron Rodgers' card prices. PSA 9 is at $170, so again, if I get the 9, I lose because I paid $200 for the card. I'm going to pay $100 to get it graded, but this is a StarStock A, and again, it looks clean, so I think I did the percentage. I didn't write it down here, but I believe that it's probably a profitable ROI. And actually, I did have one more card. This Mookie Betts has been sitting raw. One of the raw cards that we were hoping to grade when PSA opened up a lower service level. And so this card is still sitting around. Paid $75 for the card, and I wanted to see, is it worth it? So ran it through the calculation, and it's about break even. Mookie Betts PSA 10 is $245 right now. PSA 9 is at $150. Pretty high pop count on this card, but it is Mookie Betts. He's on the Dodgers. I believe there'll be, well, if we have a baseball season, there will be a lot of preseason hype for the Dodgers. So that's something else to consider. But from what I've read, it appears that there will be a baseball season, that they'll probably work it out. But who knows, right? I mean, we never know. So you just have to factor that in, consider it when you're buying baseball cards at this point. Okay, that was it. Once again, this video ran longer than I had hoped, but I wanted to go over these 10 cards that I'm possibly going to send in for grading at the $100 service level. Again, this is the email that I got through gotbaseballcards.com, so that's my source. I noticed that there's nothing on the PSA website talking about the regular service level pricing. I have not seen anything. Neo, Northeast Ohio, came out with a video going over the card ladder purchase, but he did not mention anything about the regular service pricing because there was no news on their website. So my source is the email from gotbaseballcards.com. I hope it's correct because I'm going to release this video. I believe it's correct. I don't think that he would have sent out an email saying, send your cards in to sub with us right now. And he actually put in there, it's on a first come, first serve basis. So the other thing is PSA it appears that they're going to be limiting orders, at least from subgroups like gotbaseballcards.com. And I would imagine that they're going to limit orders as well from anyone who just wants to send in cards at this new regular service price. All right. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate the likes. Make sure you smash that like button, and we'll see you on the next one.